physical body is a golden opportunity that has been afforded to us by God. It is next to God. It is meant for some purpose which cannot be achieved in any form of the body, not in any form of the creation. And what is that? That we can go back to our true Father. This is a privilege that we can have only in man body and no other. So God resides in every heart, and our souls are of the same essence as that of God. Who can know God? God cannot be known by the outgoing faculties, our mind or intellect. It is soul alone can know God, because it is of the same essence as that of God. Like knows the like. But we are under the control of mind. Mind is the control of the outgoing faculties. And outgoing faculties are drawn like anything to the outer enjoyments. So we are identified with the man body and outer world so much so that we cannot differentiate ourselves. It is a golden opportunity that is afforded to us, so that in this period we may have our steps back to God. So it is we who have to go back to God, not this man body. Man body will be left here. This is the first companion that came along with us when we entered the world. But when we go, it does not go along with us. So all masters said, man, know thyself, who you are, what you are. We are not the man body, we have the man body. We are not the intellect, we have the intellect. But we are conscious entities. It is we who are living the whole man body. So, to know ourselves first is to rise above the outgoing faculties of mind and intellect for a while. And this is what is meant by meditation. Meditation means withdrawing our attention, which is the outward expression of soul, from all outside and from the body below. Come up to the seat of the soul in the body, which is at the back of the eyes, where the man dying, you see, his eyes are upturned. And there, when he withdraws all from outside and from the body below, he knows he is a conscious entity. Then he is able to see God into expression power, not the worldly state, but the world. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and light on my path. So when you rise above there, your single eye is open to see the light of God. And this is a practical question. So meditation means that. So how to withdraw from outside and from the body below? Come up to the seat of the soul in the body, which is at the back of the eyes. That's a sort of rehearsal of death. If you know how to rise above body consciousness daily, as St. Paul saying, I die daily. Then you know yourself and know the old self which is keeping you in the body. The outer expression of which is light, as well as sound, voice of God. So you follow my point? Meditation, what does meditation mean? Withdrawing your attention from all outside for a while, and also from the body below. Rivet your attention there from where you enliven the whole body. So that enlivening power is us, our own self. Just a bulb is the hall. It is in one place and gives light, enlightens the whole room. Similarly, the bulb of our soul is at back the eyes. From there it enlightens the whole body. This is mystery of death. Now, just to have a practical experience of it, just follow please, as I say, God will give you something.
सिफात की गुरु कृपा दे में जिन कुल संसार पाने आए रंग रंग दे सज के बंदियानु विचे अपना आप लुकाया कार सिफात की गुरु कृपा में जिन कुल संसार बने आए रंग रंग दे सज के बंदियानु विचे अपना आप लुकाया आपे पाना पहाड़ दी जद बूती आपे दाता नुफुंका दिखियाए आपे पाना पहाड़ दी जद बूती आपे दाता नुफुंका दिखियाए हाय हाय खारे ताद फांद जाने आपे राव रख लाए दुख साथियाए कार सिफात की गुरु कृपा में जिन कुल संसार बने आए रंग रंग दे सज के बंदियानु विचे अपना आप लुकाया कार सिफात की गुरु कृपा में जिन कुल संसार बने आए
Our bhajan is on page 190. O Dara Dara de Ferine Nalo, bhajan of Sanchis. Instead of wandering to door after door, fall at the door of Satguru. All the business of this world is false. Give it up. Earn the profit and take it. If you forget the Nam, you suffer and get the fruit of your karmas. Meditate on the true Nam of the Master and remain in his will. When you say thine, thine, you breathe easily. O dear one, giving up the false path, follow the true path. Whoever comes into the refuge of the Master gets the gifts he asked for. Giving up all false disputes, take refuge in the Master. O Jabe, if you have true love, you meet beautiful Kirpal. You have got the true Satguru, take refuge in him. O Dara Dara de Firane Nalo, Satguru de Dara te de ja. O Dande Sabajute Chadake, Laha Kata Jagato le ja. Nama bulave duka utave, kite karamana da falapave. Nama bulave duka utave, kite karamana da falapave. Nama guru da japale sacha, ban devi chareja. Laha kata jagato le ja. O dara dara de firane nalo, Satguru de dara te de ja. O dande sabajute charake, laha kata jagato leja. Tera tera kayenda etu, sukana dasa lenda etu. Tera tera kayenda etu, sukana dasa lenda etu. Rasata juta chadake sajana, sache rasate peja. Laha kata jagato leja. O dare dare de firene nalo. Sate guru de dare te deja. O dande sabajute charake. Laha kata jagato leja. Jo visharana guru diave. Muhan mangiana muradana pave. Jo visharana guru diave. Muhan mangiana muradana pave. Chadake jute jagare sare. Guru sharana vicha peja. La kata jagato leja. O dare dare de firene nalo, sate guru de dare te de jam. O dande sabajute chadake, la kata jagato le jam. Ajeba sacha pyara ona, la bajaye kirpala sonam. Ajeba sacha pyara ona, la bajaye kirpala sonam. Sacha Satenguru milagaye, Satenguru di sharani peja, la kata jagato leja. O dare dare de firene nalo, Satenguru de dare te de jam. O dande sabajute chadake, la kata jagato le jam. Instead of wandering to door after door, fall at the door of Satguru. All the business of this world is false. Give it up, earn the profit and take it.
There we go. It's working. Well, we are here celebrating Master Kirpal's birthday. This is the San Francisco Kirpal Meditation Retreat. And Master Kirpal came to San Francisco on three different times, in 1955 and 1962, and again in 1972. And as a result, there was always a very strong Sangat in the Bay Area, and his birthday celebration has been celebrated in most recent years, a rented hall in San Francisco Masonic Temple. But for the last 2 years, we've had a virtual retreat and have been learning a few things along the way, doing it this way. And this year we're trying something new. We had such a good attendance by the Spanish-speaking community last year that this idea came that perhaps this year we should have a Spanish translation of the entire event as much as possible. And so Although those of you who are tuned into the English-speaking feed channel don't see it or hear it, if everything's working correctly, there is also a simultaneous Spanish translation that Elvia and Sylvia and Geronimo I think they're taking turns, but however they're doing it, if all the technology works, the satsang is going to places like Venezuela and to Mexico and all over. And it feels really wonderful to make this effort. And in fact, part of the program this year is we have 3 movies. They are movies of they're 3 talks by Master Kirpal, where we have taken his as spoken words and put the words on the screen so that you can follow along as you listen. And when we originally were choosing what talks to do this with, we talked with Helen Perkins and Russell Perkins, and they suggested 3 talks from 1963 that for them were very special because that was when Master was in Washington, D.C. And in fact, in Russell's book, the 12 days, in Russell's book, Stumbling Towards God, there is one whole section on the 12 days of wonder. And these are the days that Master Kirpal was in Washington, D.C. that were extra days. He was not able to do the tour in South America because of complications. And so he had all these extra days and came back to Washington, D.C. And everyone that had previously been on the tour came back, and he gave a series of amazing talks. So these talks, there's 3 of these talks that have been, that they will be presented during the course of the retreat. 2 of them are 1-hour talks, and one of them is a 30-minute talk. So we've divided it up into 5 different 30-minute segments, the first of which will be playing at the end of, at the conclusion of this satsang. So, and the other thing that happened, and that represents 2 hours and 40 minutes worth of as spoken transcription. Okay, it was quite an assignment to put all that together. But just to make it even more interesting, once Elvia and Sylvia got wind that we were doing this, they said, well, can we supply a Spanish translation? And so we will also, you'll see on screen below the English transcription, it's not a translation, it's a, I don't know what you would call a transcription, is the equivalent in Spanish. And yeah, it was the thing about that project was that for those of us that were working on it, and that Sylvia and Elvia and Geronimo and Alberto had the same experience, that when you were required to get in and listen to every single sentence, to the nuances of Master's way of saying something, to his inflections, to the emphasis that he would suddenly, words that you had heard many, many times, when you really slowed it down and listened to one sentence at a time, they just went in so much more deeply. And you know, you've heard that when you read, sometimes you read Master's books and you'll pick it up again and you'll be as if you've never read it before. Anyway, so that's the experience that we had, and we're hoping that having the transcription artistically presented in sync with Master's words, that will also be the experience for everyone watching. I have no idea how I'm doing on time. So I'll just keep going for a bit. Let me just check my notes here. So with that, let me just read a little bit from Russell's book regarding these talks. The 12 days of wonder weren't supposed to happen. According to conventional wisdom, they were not on the schedule. Master was supposed to go to South America via Panama and return to Washington for a few days before departing to India on the 29th. And then he explains that he did go to Panama, but there was a revolution and the building where all their passports were got burned down and everyone had to come home. So he flew back to Washington, and then he was going to be at Mr. Khanna's house for 10 days. So I asked my mother if they could take care of the kids for those 10 days. She agreed. Thank God for her. Judith and I drove down in our Corvair, accompanied by Jim Bax, an old friend, and David Wiggins. And David Wiggins, our first initiate in New Hampshire, and Frank Irwin, the Zen Buddhist who had fallen in love with Master at first sight, along with his wife Eleanor, and they had been given initiation instructions by Mildred Pendergrass. So we arrived at Mr. Khanna's house the evening of the 17th, and Master was due the next day. So he describes the meeting on Saturday the 18th, and then goes on to talk about the satsang he gave on Sunday the 19th. And this is one of the talks that is part of the video series. Today was the regular satsang day for the Washington initiates. So Master went to the Friends Meeting House where satsang was held and talked. To be there that day was a life-changing experience. I doubt that anyone who was there has ever forgotten it. We were in a downstairs room at the meeting house. It was packed. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. It was a prime example of the extra-physical dimension, which is always a factor whenever a genuine master speaks. He was standing at the pulpit contrary to his preferred usual cross-legged sitting position. He started talking, and the power started flowing to each of us. He said, I am happy to be amongst you again after 3.5 months. We are all children of light. God is light, and we are also light, being children of light. But our light is enveloped by so many coverings, and we are so identified with these coverings that we have forgotten ourselves. The cause of this identification is that the attention, which is the expression of our soul, it is going through the outgoing faculties, and it is diffused into the outside world. And then Russell comments, he went on to describe the principles of Srapchab Yoga in an absolutely memorable fashion. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. When you feel at the time, what you feel at the time is the experience, this is the master speaking, what you feel at the time is the experience of God in the form of light and sound. The master first gives you an experience of how to rise above this iron curtain of the human body. Then, as you practice day to day, you rise above into the astral body, the causal body, the supercausal body. Day to day, you experience more bliss and more joy. Saint Tulsidas says that he rose above the body consciousness and reached the causal plane and had the experience of bliss and joy there. And he thought, this is the most, this is the highest of all. But after that, he transcended and went to the causal plane and through the supracausal plane and beyond. And then he said, the causal plane is perhaps only a washroom compared to this. So those who have tasted that bliss are here in the world. They are bound to come back. The masters go under the orders of God. They would rather go back home, but when any of us also has some experience like that, we wish to go there. Why don't we want to go there now? It is because we find joy and bliss and happiness in these outside things. And moreover, we have never cared to analyze, to go into the matter deeply of what it is that gives us bliss in these outside things. We are conscious beings. How can a conscious being have bliss and joy and happiness in material things? But we do feel it. How and why? We are bliss personified. God is all bliss, all happiness, all joy. And this bliss is also innate in us. So long as we are identified with something, we reflect our own happiness in that thing. When that thing is withdrawn from us, or when we are made to withdraw from it, we feel unhappiness. So we should identify ourselves with something which is not changing, and that is God alone. Any happiness we feel with the outside things is not really in those things, but in our own selves. It is simply reflected in those things so long as we are identified with them. So an awakened soul cries, "Oh, how beautiful you are, how beautiful and how all-wise." He sees his wisdom in all things because he becomes a conscious co-worker of the divine plan. And he sees that it is he who is doing it, not himself. I'm thinking I have probably read as much as I should at this segment. Let's see, just one quick announcement before we go to the next speaker, who was Helen Perkins. So Russell is slated to give satsang tomorrow afternoon and then again on Sunday morning. He's been a bit under the weather and it is unsure whether he will be able to do tomorrow, but there is a chance that he will be able to do Sunday, and we'll just keep you posted as we go further along with that. So, but he is actually here we're at the Phelps House in Sebastopol, and if everything's working, he's watching back there as part of the group. And so we'll see tomorrow if he is going to be in front of the camera or still a participant in the general Sangha. So, okay, Eric, back to you.
Oh, greetings, everybody. You know, one of the sweetest memories I have of living in those early days at Sampani Ashram was the incredible anticipation that we had in anticipating Master's letters. We would get together, we would talk about what we wanted to write to him, some of the questions that had come up. And then waiting and waiting for his answers to come. It was such a beautiful time of anticipation, as I said, and to feel that Master was actually with us, answering those letters in such a sweet way. Invariably, he would respond to our questions, in a general way, and we would appreciate what he would say. And then he would always end it with these words: "Please be lovingly and regularly devoted to your holy meditations with deep faith and sacred earnestness. Master power working overhead will be extending all feasible help, grace, and protection." I always felt that feasible was the operable word here, but these were words that you would say again and again. And at one time, somebody complained to me that Master was writing a form letter to her. I said, these words, as Master used to say, Master's words are pregnant with meaning, and every word is so in depth, so powerful, so potent. Just analyze what he was saying. And I think that helped. It helped me to remember that Master was saying these words out of deep respect for us. In one case, in one situation, he didn't say that to one of the Sevadars there. And this was Gerald Boyce, whom Russell has lovingly mentioned in his book, Stumbling Toward God. In one of Gerald's letters, Master ended the letter with kind thoughts, I wish you to engage with all your heart and mind in service of the Holy Nam, and the Holy Nam will take care of you. When Gerald got that, he showed it to us, and we sat down and puzzled over what he meant by service of the Holy Nam. And later on, Master answered his question and said it simply means, devoting yourself to listening to the holy sound and being devoted to it. So I would like to share a few of the letters that Master wrote in Spiritual Elixir. These were letters to various ones in the relatively early part of Master's discipleship here, I should say mastership here. And this is, the first one is, I did find a friend for you, a friend who is even now waiting patiently for you to turn to him. He is constantly by your side, loving you, wanting your love, wanting to share your life, your thoughts, and your faith. It is you who have drawn a thick screen of various thoughts in between you and your friend. Try to remove the screen. Then you will see a friend waiting with outstretched arms to embrace you with love, to stand by you all through this life and thereafter. Do not despair. You are much loved. If only you would shed your negative attitude and be receptive, everything would be yours. He is with you always, extending all feasible help. If we turn our face to him, he will be constantly with us, perceptively and imperceptibly. He will be talking to you as many other cases in the USA and abroad. I'm glad to note that you are beginning to realize that the affairs of this earthly life are transitory, and that the life hereafter is lasting, and that we must make the best use of this earthly life and prepare for achievement of the everlasting life which is hereafter. This is the goal before us, and if we work upward bit by bit, under proper guidance, our earthly life becomes peaceful, as well as the life which follows. Master is ever with you. He is not the body. He has the body. The body is the pole at which he works to guide those stuck fast in the physical body and to help them transcend that body. Master is always helping the seekers far and wide and remains with them wherever they may be. You are always with me. Distance makes no difference. My love flows to you incessantly. To love, revere, and feel grateful to our fellow men is to love and revere God. So too, the love for the visible Master, our closest connecting link with God, is in reality love for the Supreme Father. It has spirituality as an end and is not an idolatry. The atmosphere in which such a genuine Master moves is charged with currents of peace and love which affect those who come in contact with him. Even letters written by and on behalf of him carry a current of ecstasy that influences the innermost recesses of the hearts. Guru precedes God. And I think that line just epitomizes so much the anticipation that we felt. Even letters written by and on behalf of him carry a current of ecstasy that influence the innermost recesses of our heart. Guru precedes God. Communion with the Holy Nam, the Divine Word, together with meditating on his glory, is the open sesame to the realization of the one being. Word is the substance and the power by which all life is made. Holy communion with his raptured strains is a gift that can be attained only through a living Master. In his company, a life of holy inspiration and love of God is followed, and the inner eye is open to see the presence of God in all things. The Master ever remains with the devotee, wherever he may be. Death and distance are immaterial in the relationship of the Master and the disciple. He is always by his side, here and hereafter. The holy sound is always present with you, and if you practice it in an accurate way, you will hear it more distinctly with the grace of the Master. Those who will earnestly and lovingly carry on as directed will surely have spiritual success, now, in this very life. The Master Power overhead is most anxious to see his children come up to him within and to enjoy the resplendent, divine peace and bliss of those regions where they will be conducted by their charming and radiant Master within. Let nothing come between the initiate and his or her Master. And that is something that Master Kirpal and also Sanchi wrote to me several times. Let nothing come between you and your Master. Nothing. When a disciple comes near a Master, the latter's atmospheric influence is felt according to the degree of receptivity developed. When he or she has grasped the theory of the teachings of the saints and has taken up the way, it may be as an experimental measure at first, but full conviction comes only when he or she sees within. The evidence of others can only give inducement to take up the way. But first-hand experience is convincing, however small it may be. Master always holds the hand that he takes. There is never a thought of loosening that hold, that very tight hold. Master power will never leave nor forsake the initiate until the end of the world. He is a fathomless ocean of love incarnate. Love knows only giving, so he gives and gives. He continually sends his grace to them. When the initiate sees the Master's inner glory and his charm and listens to those strains of music, he or she must respond, no matter what those who are ignorant may say. This is a gift of the Master. The Master is always with his initiates, working over their heads, and he is never unaware of their inner longings and feelings. He helps to wind up the karmic debts so that they need not return for another earthly sojourn. Master's presence will be felt in spirit in all the satsangs, and wherever else he is remembered. Sitting in sweet remembrance of the Master is what it means, just as the words express, a feeling of deep-seated love, naturally created within, with a deep longing. The Master is most anxious to meet his dear children within, and is constantly sending his grace to all of them, so that they may come up to him and meet him face to face. He who resigns himself to the will of the Master places himself under the protective power of the Master, who hastens to awaken the divinity within him. The Master never leaves the probationer once taken over until he takes him to God, whose prototype he is on the earth. He talks face to face with his devotee and gives him counsel in time of need. He molds the disciple into the likeness of God and makes him a living temple of the divine consciousness. And I'd like to add a little personal experience. When it was about 6 weeks after I was initiated, that on my way to work in the first big snowstorm of the year in New Hampshire, I hit an icy part of the road, and at 60 miles an hour, I hit a guardrail fence. I have no memory of what happened after that, but when I came to, about 40 yards away from where the car was, there was no seatbelt in the car, by the way. I was in the middle of the road. The snow was pretty much covering me. My first thought was, is this the astral plane? Everything was so white. And just at that moment, a semi-trailer truck came by, and I waved to him, and the man jumped out of the cab, wrapped me up in a blanket, and with his CB, told the library where I was to work that I wouldn't be in that day, and he took me to the hospital. When I wrote Master about this, sometime after when I was recouped, he wrote back and he said that he was sorry about the accident. And then he said, "Thank Master, you are safe, for a major catastrophe has been averted." And I sometimes think that I have been on what do you call it? Borrowed time for 55 years. Anyway, at about the same time that happened, there was a dear one who was going through a very deep depression. He was very distraught and distressed. And he wrote Master a very hard letter. And Master responded to him with the words simply, "Your loving face is always before me." And so I think of those words, Master saying, "Thank Master, you are safe, and a major catastrophe has been averted. And your loving face is always before me." How can we not love such a Master? How can we not be grateful that we are his?
Dear friends, we are fortunate that we have got the man body. Man body is the highest rung in all creation. And in man body only we can know God. The God to whom we want to approach is already in this man body. Man body is considered to be the true temple of God. Because God resides in every heart. And we also reside in the same temple. We both of us, our own self and God, reside in this very man body, which is the true temple of God. But pity it is that we cannot speak with God. To see God or to find God or to converse with God, we have to just enter this laboratory of the man body. And this is a wonderful house we live in. Macrocosm is in the microcosm of the man body. We have great possibilities awaiting us in this man body. And that is what, when we know ourselves, we know God too. And we just can traverse into the different planes of the macrocosm and reach the true home of our Father. So these are the possibilities that are awaiting us, but unfortunately, we never had paid any attention to our own self. Man has three aspects. It has the physical body, it has intellect, and it is spirit in man, a drop of the ocean of all consciousness, or conscious entity. We have given food to the body, and we have become physically strong. So we have also given food to the intellect, and we have become intellectually strong. We have made wonderful inventions which are before us. But all the same, what food we have given to our own self, so on this, until we give food to our own self, which is conscious entity, we have no spiritual health. On the spiritual health depends the health of the mind and body both. So we have to consider what is that bread of life by giving which we can become spiritually strong. As I told you, we have given the food of reading and writing and just drawing inferences at the intellectual level, thinking so many ways, that has given us intellectual health. We can think out in so very better ways. We have given food to the solid body, physical body, and we are physically strong. So, until we come to know what is the true bed of life or the water of life, which if given to the soul, we can become spiritually strong. For this you will refer to the scriptures that are with us today. We have got references to these things, but we have simply ruminated over them, never gone into them to understand what is what. I'll give you some instances from the different scriptures. Christ went to a well to have a draught of water. He met there a Samaritan lady who was carrying a pitcher full of water over her head, and he asked her to give water. On account of inferiority complex, she said, well, we are Samaritans, you people have no connection with us, why are you asking for water from us? And Christ said, had she known who it was who had asked for water, she would have given him. This water which she carries, if you drink, that quenches the thirst for a while. Again man thirsts, again and again. Had she come to me, I would have given him what? The water of life. Okay? There is some water of life which can be given by Christ-like people alone. In the religions we have joined, you see, we have our scriptures there. They refer to these things. We have simply considered out the very elementary steps and the preparatory steps to how to have certain form, certain badges of a certain religion, or how to say prayers, or how to perform certain rites and rituals, and that ends there. But we have to read the scriptures, and we should try to understand the scriptures, what they say. Scriptures are what? They are fine records of the experiences what the masters had in their life with God and in knowing themselves. So, what they said, they saw, they experienced and then said. So, if you now want to understand the true import of the teachings, what they said, or what reference they made in their scriptures, we must come by it at the feet of somebody who has that experience, that way of living. Similarly, you find we simply interpret these things at the level of the intellect. And that is why we are not able to do full justice to the work. Again, you will find in the scriptures, in other scriptures too, you find the same thing. In the Vedas, in the Mohammedan literature, it is called the water which gives life, Abhava. Of course, it's in some different language. In the Vedas, you find it as a sobras, such a life which gives, such a water which gives life to everything. And what it is for Master. The Master's other scriptures now, they tell us, he says that what is that water of life? Guru Amar Das tells us that if you just come in contact, your soul comes in contact with the God pervading power, which is the cause of creation and controlling all creation, the God in action power, that is conscious. And your soul is conscious. So that if you come in contact with that, only then that is water of life which will give you life. When you drink that water, then you will be accepted at the door of God. And you will be one with that. But this is such a water of life which is the panacea for all ages, for the go to say. But that is demands that can be had only at the feet of a master. As Christ said, had she come to me, I would have given the water of life, by drinking which his thirst would have been quenched forever. So this is some water which is to be given by the masters. Again and again they refer to it. When you drink it, the same thing Guru Nanak says, that the water of life or the elixir of life which can give us an everlasting life, that is by drinking which you can have everlasting life. The same words I tell you in different languages, of course, given by the same. Again you find in the Bible too, Christ said, I am the bread of life. This bread of life has come down from heaven. Whoever partaketh of it has everlasting life. And the same thing you find again in other scriptures. I am quoting these things to you only to show that you can have everlasting life only by coming in contact with God. By coming in contact, who has to come in contact with God? That is our own self, or yes. We are conscious entities. We are embodied souls. But our souls are under the control of mind, and mind is under the control of the outgoing faculties. And we are identified with the outside things so much so that we have forgotten ourselves. So unless we liberate our souls from mind and outgoing faculties, and our attention, which is the expression of our soul, which is just engrossed, diffused into the outside things, unless that is withdrawn from there, and we come up, the outgoing faculties of senses, we can come in contact with that water of life or the bread of life. So this is the food which if given to our soul, we can become spiritually strong. Similar references you find in other masters' scriptures. You see. They tell us, if you rise above this body has got 9 doors, 9 apertures. If you shut the doors of the temple of the body, you will see the light of heaven. If you close, withdraw your attention from the 9 doors, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, mouth and other genital organs, you withdraw within. There's a 10th door also. That's the door which leads from the body to enter into the kingdom of God. That is called the 10th door, and that lies where? That lies at the seat of soul at the back of the eyes, between the 2 eyebrows. If your soul is withdrawn, that commences in darkness, of course, but when that is opened, you enter, you have access into the kingdom of God. And here you get contact with light of God and the sound principle of God. So this is the bread of life. What is in there? He says there's light also, and there's very sweet music of the spheres going on. And that is the true water of life, or the true bread of life, by eating which your hunger is appeased forever, by drinking the sweet symphonies of which your thirst is quenched forever. So this is the bread of life. This is the water of life. That is within us, but we cannot come in contact with it until we withdraw from outside and rise above body consciousness. How to withdraw from outside and how to rise above body consciousness, this is a practical subject. For all masters, they need somebody who is competent to help us to withdraw from outside and draw our spirit currents from the body up to the seat of the soul in the body, or say rise above senses, or say learn to die so that you may begin to live. These are the words we find in the scriptures. But pity it is that we have only ruminated over them, never gone into the true import, what they really mean. And this true import can be given only by those who have an access to it, who have the same experience, or who are on the way. So what they tell us, intellectual people simply define it, what is the bread of life? Well, it is intellect. What is the light? God is light, that is intellectual light. Well, that is substantial something which can be experienced at the feet of a master. So unless we come across a master, we cannot have that experience, although that is already within us. That is why it is said, kingdom of God cannot be had by observation. So long as your attention is just diffused into the world through these outgoing faculties, Well, you have no access to it. We must withdraw our attention from outside, enter this laboratory of the man body, and rise up to the level of the eyes, at the back of which the two seat of the soul is there. Then you find this bread of life and have the water of life. This is a gift of a master. And you'll find only coming to a master will not only do. Guru Nanak says, "O man, for the water of life for which you have just come into the world and got a man body, that is the source of all happiness, all joy, all bliss. You can have that only at the feet of a master." He says, "You have joined various religions for that very purpose. And my evening talk, I was just laying before you what is meant by spirituality. Spirituality means knowing oneself, liberating it from the tentacles of mind and outward faculties. Just withdraw from the body at the back of the eyes and have a look into the beyond. To come in contact with the God into expression power, which is God is light. And God is self-principle. So he says, remain in whatever religion you are, unless you rise above the body consciousness, you cannot have that gift. Although it is within you, and that also requires the help of some master to bring you up the body level, up to come to the eye level. He says, remain in some religions because you see outer social bodies of religions have to do with our physical bodies only. We bear badges of those different schools or colleges of religions we have joined. We read those scriptures and also we say prayers, and further we perform certain rites and rituals. These all relate to the man body, physical body. To remain in physical body, doing all these things, you may be very regular, you may be saying prayers daily, you may be performing rites and rituals without any break, day to day. You may be reading scriptures only. You may understand what is what, even to be able to sit at the feet of somebody who knows the way. Still, by reading alone or performing these things, don't boast of it until you rise above body consciousness and have this gift of water of life and the bread of life. And that can be had. Remain in some religions. To remain in some religion is a blessing. If you don't remain, there will be corruption, or you will have to raise another religion. There are already so many religions. They have already multiplied in so many. Religions that have already stood the test of times, we should remain there. But just rise above, according to the teachings given by the masters who came from time to time in different religions. And they said the water of life is there and the bread of life is there. You will have it when you rise above the body consciousness. So they say, while remaining in your own religions, you rise above body consciousness and the religions will only end with your physical body. When you rise above physical body, what you are? Your conscious entities, your conscious beings. You are a drops of the ocean of all consciousness. You are of the same essence, of the same religion as that of God. They say remain there, but rise above, where you are already one. You are all children of God, brothers and sisters in God. So for that reason, all masters tell us that this is the gift of the Master. I just opened the Bible, you see, and so on the very page, what connection we should have with the Master. There it is, John chapter 15. We should, as Christ said, if you love me, keep my commandments. That everybody knows. Keep our commandments means to live by the words what the Master said. But here is something where all scriptures have reference to those things. We simply read them and pass on. He says there, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. I am the true vine, and my Father is husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that it may bring forth, and every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. So it means, so long as the branches are embedded in the vines, they bear fruit. When they are cut off from the vines, they cannot bear fruit. He said, I am the true vine. How you can be embedded in the vines? By grafting. You cut it out and put the branch of some other tree, even you put it in some other tree, and they become all two into one. You see? Similarly says, you abide in me. How can you abide in him? Whom you remember at heart, naturally the reaction takes place to whom you remember. This is how you can abide in the Master, you see. So he goes on further to say, now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. He says, I have spoken a word to you which is the cleansing power, which can burn away all sins, all iniquities, all infirmities, which is the bread of life or the water of life. Abide in me and I in you. How clear was that? Abide in me and I in you. When you remember somebody, that will react in him. When that will react there, he will again react in you. So that becomes receptivity. Such a disciple becomes one with the Master. You are in him and he is in you. First, you have to obey the commandments he gives, live up to them. And the second one is, you abide in him just as a branch is just abideth in the vines. As a branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. You follow now? Who can have that bread of life and the water of life? Who not only lives up to what he says, but he also abideth in him. And how to have the sweet remembrance of the Master at heart. That sweet remembrance will react in the Master, and when he reacts there, you are remembered, and again he remembers that reaction in you. Guru Arjan puts a question. If a disciple remembers his master all the time, what does the master do? Master is not a man. Man body he has got. But in him he is conscious. He sees, I and my Father are one. He has no more to remember anybody, but he is conscious that he is one. What does he do? He remembers his disciples. Those disciples who remember him, re-entry him. In this way you develop receptivity. And by receptivity what happens? You put the same question to the master. You may be living at hundreds of miles away and go to the disciple, put him the same question, and you will see they will speak the same words. That's due to their development, you see. They have become the mouthpiece. Disciple becomes the mouthpiece of the master. The master speaking to him. This is how you have got the bread of life. And what is he? Guys, I am the bread of life, and all masters say, we are the bread of life. And what was that bread of life that had been defined? Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us. Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us. What is word? You find in St. John's Gospel, in the beginning was the Word. Word was with God, and Word was God. And the whole creation came into being after the Word. You see. So what is Word? It is God is wordless, nameless, absolute. When it came into being, into expression, into action, that God into action power, that God into expression power is called Word. So that God in action power manifested at some human pole, that is called the Word. So true Master is God Himself, who resides in every heart. When He manifests Himself at any human pole, that is the God in Him, the manifested God in Him, is the true Master. Of course, we have regard for the human pole at which that God power manifests.
Oh, beloved Kirpal Guru, my love with you is very ancient. I am lying at your door. I am standing with my hands stretched out. The eyes are thirsty. Make me have your darshan. Shower grace, O Lord. Take me across. O friend of the miserable ones, the ocean of compassion, how do you forget me? Showering grace, you liberated the saints. O Satguru, you have liberated even the sinners. You ate the contaminated fruits of chivalry. You embraced all those who came into your refuge. You have erased everyone's difficulties. You have known everyone's pains. O Satguru, I am in your refuge. You are an ocean, and I am your drop. You are my mother and father and brother. I am a beggar. You are the giver. Oh, Ajib, this is a tale of lives. This is a story of birth after birth. Oh, beloved Kirpal Guru, My love with you is very ancient. A bhajan on page 267. तुमसे मेरी प्रीत पुरानी है किरपाल गुरु प्यारे प्यारे किरपाल गुरु तुमसे तुमसे मेरी प्रीत पुरानी है किरपाल गुरु प्यारे प्यारे किरपाल गुरु तुमसे दरवाजे पर पड़ा हुआ हाथ पसारे खड़ा हुआ हूँ दरवाजे पर पड़ा हुआ हूँ हाथ पसारे खड़ा हुआ हूँ आँखियाँ प्यासी दर्श दिखाओ दया करो प्रभु पार लगाओ आँखियाँ प्यासी दर्श दिखाओ दया करो प्रभु पार लगाओ दीन बंधु करुणा के सागर मेरी सुध कैसे बिसरानी है किरपाल गुरु प्यारे प्यारे किरपाल गुरु तुमसे किरपाकारी संत जन तारे सतगुरु तुमने आदम उपारे किरपाकारी संत जन तारे सतगुरु तुमने आदम उपारे शिवरी के झूठे फल खाए सब शरणागत कांट लगाई शिवरी के झूठे फल खाए सब शरणागत कांट लगाई तुमने सबके संगत काटे सबकी पीड़ा जानी है किरपाल गुरु प्यारे प्यारे किरपाल गुरु तुमसे मेरी प्रीत पुरानी है किरपाल गुरु प्यारे प्यारे किरपाल गुरु तुमसे हे सतगुरु में शरण तुम्हारी तुम सागर में बूंद तुम्हारी हे सतगुरु में शरण तुम्हारी तुम सागर में बूंद तुम्हारी तुम ही माता Pita Hora Prata मैं ऊंचा चक्र तुम हो दाता तुम ही माता पिता और भ्राता मैं ऊंचा चक्र तुम हो दाता अजायब यही जन्मों की गाथा यही जन्म जन्म की कहानी है किरपाल गुरु प्यारे प्यारे किरपाल गुरु तुमसे तुमसे मेरी प्रीत पुरानी है किरपाल गुरु प्यारे प्यारे किरपाल गुरु तुमसे